If the ownership of this house isn't transferred to me, I'm seriously considering a divorce. I was completely shocked when my husband suddenly dropped this bombshell. This house holds so many cherished memories of our family, and the thought of losing it is unbearable. Despite my deep emotional attachment, my husband is threatening me, playing with my feelings. Feeling distraught, I turned to my father for help. My name is Camilla, a 30-year-old full-time housewife who spends her days supporting and managing our household. I married Jack 2 years ago, and after leaving my job, he became the sole breadwinner. However, our peaceful life took a drastic turn after my father-in-law passed away, which led to my mother-in-law moving into our apartment. To my surprise, I wasn't informed about her move until the day before she arrived. Jack casually announced her arrival as if it was the most normal thing, catching me completely off guard. When I questioned why this decision was made so suddenly, he casually mentioned that my mother would also be coming to live with us the next day. The news left me bewildered. I had assumed she was just visiting, but Jack clarified that she was moving in. This decision was made without any prior discussion with me. The very next day, my mother-in-law, Daisy, arrived with an overwhelming amount of luggage. I greeted her politely. "It's been a while, Daisy. I'm glad you look well. Please come in." However, she seemed displeased and immediately questioned why I hadn't come to pick her up. She emphasized that it was common sense to meet your mother-in-law at the station, especially when she's carrying such heavy bags. I explained that I didn't know what time she was arriving, but she snapped back, "In that case, you should have contacted me." "You're so thoughtless." I apologized, but she continued, "This is why people say some daughter-in-laws are useless and inconsiderate." With a grumble, she settled heavily on the sofa, acting as though she owned the place. I couldn't believe her attitude. From that day on, her snide remarks intensified. The moment Jack left for work, the barrage began. "Camilla, why are you just sitting there? Do the dishes. You should have finished the laundry this morning. That's common knowledge." "I'm sorry. I'll do the laundry as soon as I finish the dishes," I replied. "You have your priorities all wrong. In my house, the rule is to do the laundry immediately after breakfast," she snapped. "But that rule is just to do as you're told. Haven't your parents taught you not to make excuses?" I had my own routine, but Daisy couldn't seem to understand that. Even when I followed her instructions, she would still find something to complain about. Every day with her was a new challenge. Then, one day, I had an epiphany. I needed to find a way out of this living hell with my mother-in-law. The plan was to move to the house I inherited from my father and live separately from my mother-in-law. A few months ago, my father retired early, and my parents relocated to the countryside, starting a new chapter in their lives. They passed their house on to me, and fortunately, it's not far from our current apartment. We had always planned to move there eventually, but living with my mother-in-law had pushed me to my breaking point, so I decided to talk to Jack about moving sooner. "Jack, can we talk for a minute?" I asked. "Sure, what's up?" "Did something happen?" he replied. "Remember the house my father gave us? What do you think about moving there?" "Oh, that house. We did talk about moving there someday." "Why the sudden change of heart?" he asked, surprised. "Well, I've been having some difficulties with your mother. She hasn't mentioned anything directly, but I can't handle living with her anymore. That's why I'm seriously considering moving." Since the new house wasn't far away, I suggested we move there and let his mother stay in our current apartment. To my surprise, Jack agreed. After informing Daisy of our decision, we planned to make the move within a week. I honestly expected some resistance from her, but she accepted it with a smile. "Goodbye, Jack and Camilla. I'm sorry about the sudden move," Daisy said. "Don't worry about it. It's wonderful that your father gave you the house." "He's very kind," Jack replied. "Thank you. Please visit us sometime," I said. "Of course, it's not far from here, and I hope you'll visit me regularly too," Daisy added. I will. I promised. After that conversation, Jack and I moved into our new home. I felt a huge sense of relief, knowing I wouldn't have to endure Daisy's constant sniping anymore. Finally, I could live at my own pace. Although I initially feared how Daisy would react, talking it through with Jack brought me peace. However, that peace didn't last long. Despite keeping my distance from Daisy and reducing some stress, Jack began coming home late. It wasn't just occasional late nights. There were days when he didn't come home at all. He defended his actions, saying he was worried about his mother, but this became a regular occurrence. Without informing me, he would go to her house, have dinner, and sometimes even stay overnight, disrupting my daily life. This can't continue, I thought. One day, I sat him down for a serious conversation. Jack, you've been coming home really late lately, and sometimes you don't even come home at all, I said. Is that so? I'm just worried about my mother, he responded dismissively. That's not the point. At least let me know ahead of time if you'll be late so I won't have to prepare dinner. Since you're a housewife and always at home, you can eat the leftovers for lunch the next day, right? He said, brushing off my concern. So, you're saying I should just accept everything quietly because I'm a housewife? Are you saying we shouldn't talk about this? Isn't that the truth? Housewives just relax at home, he replied coldly. What? What are you saying? I asked, shocked. Anyway, I'm worried about leaving my mother alone. Linda will be coming back soon, and I need to discuss some things with her. Wait, Linda is coming back? What do you need to discuss with her? I asked, feeling uneasy. We're moving Linda here to live with us, Jack said casually. Live together? What do you mean? I asked, stunned. She's been saying she wants a big house like the one she had abroad, so I thought we could let her stay in this house, he explained. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After barely escaping Daisy's constant complaints, now his sister Linda was going to live in this house. I couldn't wrap my head around it. This was the house I inherited from my father. It felt unnatural. It was the only big house that would satisfy Linda, my husband argued. The apartment where we used to live is now where my mother stays, and it's too small for 4 people. But I never intended to live with Linda. I don't plan to live together either. I intend to give this house to Linda, my husband declared. What? Why? Because we plan to move back with my mother. Linda can use this house freely, he explained. I was taken aback by my husband's unreasonable proposal and felt like fainting. Despite my repeated insistence that I had no intention of living with my mother-in-law, my husband eventually became furious. Can't you be a little more considerate? You can live because of me. So just do as I say. Enough is enough of your jokes. This house is precious to me, inherited from my father. Why should I give it to Linda? Such a wonderful house is wasted on you, isn't it? I've already told Linda that I've got her a large house. It's too late to say otherwise now. I wasn't consulted in any of this decision. Either way, I can't accept it. You're always complaining. Enough. Calm down and think. I'll go back to my mother's for a while. My husband angrily slammed the door and left. Left alone in the room, tears streamed down my face. I couldn't understand why my husband decided everything on his own. It's unimaginable that he intends to give away the house I inherited from my father to my sister-in-law. Every day, my husband sent me messages asking if I had calmed down and telling me to come back soon. Each time, I had to firmly tell him that I had no intention of agreeing. Then one day, he said something shocking over the phone. Hey, Camilla. When will you come here and live with me? Stop nagging. I've said it so many times. I have no intention of living with Daisy, moving there, or giving this house to Linda. I've already told Linda. Stop being selfish. She might be coming back this week, so there's no time. Why should I give up my house for your family? I inherited this house from my father. Don't decide on your own. Who do you think you're talking to? Even my mother is furious. I'm at my wit's end. That's not my problem. You're ignoring my feelings, I responded. My husband let out a big sigh over the phone, clearly frustrated. Then, he said something shocking. If you can't listen to me, then let's divorce. Hand over the house to Linda. Leave by tomorrow. At that moment, my love for my husband quickly faded. Threatening me with divorce was utterly despicable. I couldn't possibly forgive him for using divorce as a threat without considering my feelings. I couldn't allow these people to have their way. Burning with anger, my husband continued to speak with a triumphant and dominating tone. Listen, if you don't leave by tomorrow, I'll really divorce you. That's it. Wait, are you serious? Of course I am. You don't have a choice. What will you do if you, a housewife, get divorced? You can't survive. Enough. I get it. Good. Hurry up and move over here. My mother is looking forward to disciplining you, he said with a confident tone before hanging up the phone, assuming I would do as he said. After that call, I made up my mind and decided to seek help from my father to come up with a plan. The next day, everything was ready for the move. When asked, I replied calmly, by the way, I'm curious about when Linda will be back. She'll be back tomorrow. Why are you so obsessed with Linda? Between you and me, she seems to have made a lot from stock investments. I see. So, if you provide her with a house, maybe you can ask for financial help. That's so like you. Anyway, you need to leave that house by today. It's inconvenient for all of us. Don't worry. I've already moved. What? What do you mean? My husband seemed genuinely surprised. I knew it. You don't want to divorce me, do you? Naturally, without an income, you can't survive. But all of this is coming to an end. We're still married now, so that's why we're talking. Wait, what? My husband was clearly shaken by my words. You promised to move out of that house, right? And live with me. But you've already moved. What are you saying? Of course, I won't live in a house with a husband who decides everything on his own and a bullying mother-in-law. Why are you including me? You promised to move out for Linda, I said. I've already moved, didn't I? I did as you said. Enough with the jokes. Where are you now? My husband's tone was panicky, and he was clearly losing his cool. Actually, I'm at my parents' house. Why? I moved to my parents' rural home. I don't plan on returning to where you guys are. You should have told me that sooner, my husband replied with a hint of relief in his voice. If I could just give that house to Linda, it doesn't matter where you live. It would require $3,300,000. $3,300,000? I put the house I inherited from my father up for sale. If you truly want to give it to Linda, buy it for $3,300,000 and then hand it over. Are you joking? I'm serious. The house was still in my father's name, so I asked him to sell it. In reality, what I asked my father for was to sell the house. My father had always said, if something happens, contact me. You can live or sell this house as you like. I'll help you. As a result of the valuation, a price of $3,300,000 was proposed, which I gladly agreed to and put the house on the market immediately. My husband probably never saw this coming. He spat out insults, consumed with anger. Why are you doing this without asking me? This is unforgivable. I'm not asking for, nor do I need, your approval. We're getting divorced soon anyway. I don't care. Do you understand your position? You'll be the one in trouble if we divorce, since you don't have an income. You're just a housewife. I'd rather struggle on my own than be with you forever. Listen, Linda will be coming back soon. I told you I'm relying on Linda's money, didn't I? So what? Like I said, if you want dear Linda to live in that house, just buy it for $3,300,000. That is, if you can. What? That's impossible. If Linda has made a lot of money from her investments, I don't see why she can't afford it. I don't know how much she made, but that's too much. She can never afford it. My husband was all excuses, with no hint of an apology, maintaining his domineering attitude. I felt it was foolish to spend any more time on him, so I unleashed everything I'd been holding back. I'm done with you and this ridiculous mess. Did you think threatening divorce would make me give up the house? If you thought being a housewife meant I'd do whatever you say, you're so wrong. Hey, let's calm down and talk. I am calm. Isn't it you who's panicking? I won't be controlled by you or your family anymore. Stay out of my life. Go to hell with your beloved mother, you mama's boy. I shouted loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, then abruptly hung up the phone. Of course, I'd had enough of these insane calls from my husband, so I blocked his number. I immediately consulted my lawyer and decided to request a divorce. It took some time, but the divorce was finalized, with my husband being recognized as at fault. He and Daisy still live in that cramped apartment. As for Linda, they couldn't provide the large house she wanted, and she was furious, claiming this wasn't the deal. She made a U-turn back overseas. My ex-husband's plan to seek financial assistance from his successful sister fell through, and now he seems to be struggling financially, having to pay me alimony while supporting his mother. As long as he continues to live with such a selfish woman, his life will never be prosperous. On the other hand, I've moved to the countryside and am enjoying peaceful days with my parents. I recently started a clerical job at a small company, introduced by a neighbor. With that salary, I can live comfortably. I plan to stay here for a while. I want to be by my parents' side as much as possible to repay the kindness